But I'm at the library now, and we're talking about the Dutch House. And the author is Ann Patchett, and she's really a great person. I've done a lot of reading about her. Has anyone read any of her other books? Bel Canto, State of Wonder.
Yes.
Anyone?
Yes.
So you have, Trissa? Which book have you read?
Bel Canto's State of Wonder.
Oh, didn't you love State of Wonder? Or is it just me? No.
I don't particularly like her, but I liked this book.
Okay. All right. This book was
I found
good.
this book in anyway, go ahead.
So a little information about the cover. Ann Patchett co-owns a bookstore in Nashville where she lives. It's called Paranus. And she does a lot of purchasing of books, and covers mean a lot. And I have to read what she wrote about her cover. She has a special edition out, and I put it on our Facebook page. That's a little prettier than this one. This one's beautiful. It's a little prettier. And she has a lot of experience both as a writer and as a bookstore owner, and cites her early intervention in trying to control the cover designs of her novels. Now, I know Carol and I both we're children's librarians, and usually you don't mix cover artist, illustrator with author. It's rare when that happens, but she has complete control of her art for her covers. So she wrote that for this graphic, she found an artist in Nashville. She didn't want a picture of a house. She didn't want a picture of a room. She wanted a picture of Maeve on the cover of that painting. So she gave the artist the chapters from the book that described the painting. And then he put that painting together, and she said, that's the cover. And the publisher said, okay, we'll go with that as the cover. And so.
Am I putting this on Facebook? Because I'm putting it on Facebook right now because I was helping them. So it's not on Facebook. It will be.
Okay, that's okay. You can put it on after as soon as you can. We're just talking about the cover right now.
Got it.
And she says this about cover art. Book covers are like the call to the readers, like a rose to a bee, which is so true. I mean, the cover is what draws, and this cover drew me to this book. Anyone else, was it the cover that, got you excited about the book, or was it just me? I think the cover art was beautiful, and it really attracted me. So I'm just going to try to see everyone here. Okay. So anyone have any thoughts on the cover art before we talk about the book? No? Oh, well, Marcia, we're not hearing you. Oh, Sean.
I didn't know anything about the cover art till I was getting through the book and read about the painting and looked at it, and it had the birds, the bird wallpaper in the back, and her red coat and her thick dark hair. And I thought it was really cool when as I discovered that as I was reading it. Yeah. So I appreciated the cover much.
Yeah. And covers are very important to the bookseller. And as a bookseller, I think she's right on with her cover. I think a lot of people, and she has this painting hanging in her den. So she's a really cool lady just from reading about her, and I really like that. And then many of us read it and some of us listened to it, like I listened to it.
I
And
did
she's a
listen
good
to it.
friend of Tom Hanks. They're friends. And she asked him if he would be interested in reading the book. And she didn't give him any like, hey, just read the book, do the audio. She didn't give him any hints how she wanted. He did his own. He added some humor to it. And I thought, I listened to the audio and I highly recommended listening to anyone else listen to it.
I did. I loved it. I thought it was really, the way he did it,
It's
You have
too,
to
we gotta
unmute
get them
mute.
out of the same room. It's not working.
Okay.
Sorry, you guys. Somebody can go in the history room. It's just echoing, reverbing really bad.
So our system today is not working. Let's just turn off the AirPlay, and Marcia, we have to separate.
well, we are. Lori,
Yeah.
Lori's going outside.
Okay, all
And
right.
she's in her iPhone
Technical
and
difficulties. We're trying to,
didn't work.
trying other options, but they look like the other option isn't going to work.
No, not gonna work. But no, I thought it was really, really well done with Tom Hanks. He did a magnificent job reading it. I just really, really enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he really did well too. Although I have to say, at first, the first couple of chapters, when he, said part 2 or chapter 2 or whatever, I felt he was getting out of character. He just sounded like, himself and kind of flippant about it. But then as the reading went on, I thought he got into it and it was really good. So.
Yeah, I'm just gotta up my volume here. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, he did a really good job. I thought he put a little humor in it. But one thing I had, and I know Ginny and I both talked about this, is I did not realize it was a man that was telling the story. And I think Ginny, you mentioned that too. I didn't know it was a man for a long time. I knew it was Tom Hanks reading, but she was using first person, and I didn't know, anyone else not know for a while that it was Danny?
Yeah, it took me a little while to get clued into that, because I listened to it and then I read the book. Both are great. I love listening to Tom Hanks, but I also like actually reading the book. So when I read the book, I already knew the story because I had listened to it previously.
I don't think you have that problem in reading the book that Danny's telling the story. And in one of the reviews that I read of the book, Ann Patchett talks about, they ask her if it's difficult to have written it from the man's point of view, and she said, it depends on the man. And she also says that it was unusual for her to speak in the first person, but that she felt that Danny was easy to deal with because he was oblivious to the fact that he had made it through life because of women.
Yeah, and that's really obvious when his housekeeper and the nanny, he never realized they were sisters.
Yeah.
Yes.
They were oblivious to that. So just those little.
But also in his defense, he was pretty little. Wasn't he like 3 years old when
He was 3.
when his
Yeah.
mother walks out, and when he's not very old when his life gets upended and his stepmother enters the picture. So
Yeah. And it's like a true fairy tale. I mean, you've got the wicked stepmother kicking the kids out of the house.
Stepmother.
Yeah, Hansel and Gretel, Cinderella, everything wrapped in one. Yeah, I really liked the book. I like that the house was a character. I mean, the house was.
Yeah.
I loved the house.
And it's funny because like homes that you've lived in before, like my grandparents' old home, like I drive by whenever I'm in town. So you know.
Yeah. So when she
Sorry,
was,
book club is not working for me today. So many interruptions.
that's okay. Um, the house, when she was doing her research, it was tied between Evanston and Chicago, or this suburb outside of Philadelphia.
Oh.
And yeah, and she didn't want to do Chicago because her last book took place in Chicago. So this other suburb won out. But the whole idea of the big old houses, I know where Maureen and I are from, I think of Oak Park and River Forest and those big old houses.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, the house had a personality of their own. I know Mo, your house had a personality. She lived in Oak Park. Yeah, yeah. So
It's interesting that you said that because the reviews that I read said that the reason she wrote about this house is because she went to Sarah Lawrence and this house actually exists.
if you read Musings, which is her, did you read the Musing article? I'll put it out on Facebook. It's her article answering questions about
Yeah,
the actual.
I read one where she answered questions, but she talked about going to Sarah Lawrence.
Yeah, and that was the place
because-
that her friend was from that community. So yeah,
Right,
it was
and
taken
she
from.
would go, she spent time with her because she didn't go home to Nashville because it was too far. And how she never wants to write about, she says in one article, I'm sorry, I don't know what it was from, that she would never write about Nashville because she would get too absorbed in detail, which I found interesting because her detail about the house is outstanding.
Yeah.
So imagine what over detailed would be from her.
I
Yeah.
was so fascinated with the character of the house that I went online and looked up Dutch houses, and there's all kinds of articles on that style where you get a really good understanding about that architectural style where you can see through the house and so forth. It's there's quite a bit on it. It's pretty interesting if you're into architecture at all.
And the story was also, besides the house, it was the story of the brother and sister's bond, how they
Yeah.
bonded. And I know they were 7 years apart, but how Maeve mothered him into what she wanted him to be, even though he didn't want to be a doctor. So I know Sean and I were talking about that. Who did it remind you of, Sean? You were saying? Was it you, Sean, I was talking to?
No, I don't remember.
No, it was
Remind who?
about how he went with his dad to pick up
Collect
the
the
rent.
rent?
Right, and
Yeah.
he really liked fixing houses. He really liked the architecture even. He liked reviving.
But the medical degree was the way she figured out she could spend most of the money and
Right.
have him
Yeah.
taken care of. So
Yeah.
And spend it on
she's
the
pretty
daughter.
smart.
Yeah.
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 Well, I don't think she wanted what was best for Danny. I think she just wanted to spite Andrea, but
Yeah.
because he was reluctant to finish and keep going with it, but he did because he kind of owed everything to Maeve for through the tough time to that spot. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, what'd you all think of the mother when she finally reappeared?
she-
She,
that's a bizarre mother.
Yeah.
that was kind of a twist for me. I wasn't expecting that,
Yeah.
to have her show up again.
Yeah. And we really don't know too much about the relationship with her Cyril, was it the dad's name?
Dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she
And-
didn't like the house. She didn't like the ostentatiousness of the house. She wanted to live simple, and that's, you know, she never felt comfortable in the house. He just bought the house and told her this was your house. And, you know, and that was,
It just seemed like there was such a disconnect with Cyril. He didn't get his wife at all, that he thought he could surprise her and please her by that house. Because it sounded like when they were less wealthy in their early years and on the military base, that they had a happy, loving time, right? And then he kind of got into the real estate and into the rat race and bought the house. And I'm not so sure he had so much of a connection with the kids either, other than taking Danny to collect the rents, you know? And then with Andrea, what did he have any kind of connection with her other than that she loved the house that he loved? I mean, it just seemed like he was a little bit disconnected from all the people around him.
Yeah, and so was Danny. I mean, they were very similar, father and son, and how they get along with women. You know,
Mhm.
it's just, yeah, there
Well-
was boundaries.
And I think but I think that the relationship with the dad and then the mom that left, I feel like it would have eroded over time anyway. Was it good for her to leave her kids? Probably not. But at the end of the day, like there were some fundamental issues there that I
Yeah.
think would have split them up inevitably.
well, and Danny divorced his wife, so, you know.
But how does a woman that has children, I get that he dumps the house on her, that they don't have a great connection. But don't you find it a bit incongruous that a woman that has children leaves to go help the poor of India? Obviously going to help. She's obviously got some sort of compassion and empathy for people. Why doesn't she have it for her own children? I mean, this is one of the problems I have with Patchett. I mean, in Bel Canto, I was just like, who are these people? In State of Wonder, I was like, who are these people? I'm enjoying what you're telling me and listening, and I'm getting an insight into her, but I just don't get why this woman is on the bestseller list and why she gets these accolades. I definitely think she should get accolades for her bookstore. I think it's fabulous. But I just don't know. I mean, these characters, the mother, Elna, is like, I don't know. I don't understand her. She's totally incongruous.
Well, I don't understand any mother that would leave her children. So it's really hard for me to understand this woman. I can see how you cannot leave your husband. I can understand how you would leave your home. I can't understand how you would leave your children. And that, as you say, go around and do all these good deeds for everybody else, but have no connection ever with your kids. I don't get it either.
Yeah, because she could have gone and visited them, but there was nothing. It was nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though Maeve had this wonderful thought about her, Danny had nothing because he was 3. So yeah, it's also a story of inheritance gone wrong. And I know she did. Ann Patchett did a lot of research in, can something like this happen? Like, can the kids and she did a lot of research in that, and she also did his medical school because her husband is a physician. So she had talked to a lot of people as she was writing this book, and so yeah, the whole losing everything. I'm like, couldn't those kids fight this? I wanted them to fight it and get the house back, but was not meant to be. Anyone else have any scary inheritance stories?
I thought I couldn't understand how the mother could walk away, and the same disconnect between her compassion for other needy people and not for her own children. But I didn't, until she came back, I thought that was just an ancillary setup to Danny and Maeve and how they survived. And I thought that it was more about them. And I want to go to a page. Shoot, I had a picture of the page, and now I have to go back and find it. It was more about their progression through what that caused in their lives, and getting rid of the resentment and the hate. And there, somewhere, and I have to find it in my photos, a picture of the page, because there was a quote about them. They were kind of nursing this grudge by going and sitting by the house all the time. And there was one point where he said something about, why do we keep doing this? When are we going to give up the hate and move on? And I thought that a lot of the book was kind of about that. You sort of had to process all that was going on. And it seemed like at the end, when Janine, we said, it kind of wraps up. It's like they both looked back and said, well, maybe they didn't have the worst end of the deal. Maybe they came out okay. Maybe Maeve made a life for herself. Maybe she found love somehow. We don't really know. And the daughter and the whole circle of life. I mean, his daughter ended up buying the house and loving the house. So.
Yeah.
And then at the mother too, she finally encouraged Maeve to go back to the house, to meet the stepmother, touch base. And I think that opened her eyes. I think that certainly helped move them along to the point where they could kind of get the bigger perspective and forgive a little bit. So I think that was probably the mother's role, I thought, was really big at that point, to encourage that forgiveness and reconciliation.
And then she went and took care of Celeste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Andrea.
Andrea, not Celeste.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, you leave your own kids. I mean, that was a total disconnect. You leave your own kids, but then you go and have compassion and care for the woman that totally screwed up their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could be so forgiving of being kicked out. I really felt sorry for Maeve in this whole thing. I mean, Danny comes out pretty good. He gets to be a doctor. He gets his degree. He gets married. He has kids. Maeve is all by herself all the time and works in this mediocrity of a job, particularly. I don't know. I just feel like she gave up everything for her brother and, in the house. I mean, I don't know. I felt she really got the short end of the stick on this thing.
She probably needed therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to be thrown out of the house, or to be thrown out of her bedroom. The
Yeah.
whole
that
the bedroom, and
That's when you knew her father was worthless.
yeah.
He could have, that's when you knew, that's when I just could have cared less about anything about him. The wicked stepmother, the stereotype, well, my kids should have the best room. And it was like, yeah.
So I'm gonna pull up the questions now. We haven't started any of the questions, but I pulled up a couple of them. It sounds like most of us liked the book and some of us didn't like it. I know, Trissa,
No,
you
I
were,
liked it.
I like-
I found it compelling. I wanted to read it. I was predisposed not, I was predisposed not to like her, not to
Yeah.
like the author. I love what she does with her bookstore. I don't like it that I don't like her books.
yeah, yeah,
But this book was compelling. I wanted to read it. I was curious about what was going to happen. I think the people were hollow, but I think her characters are hollow.
Have you been to her bookstore?
No, but I'd love to. It sounds fabulous.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Have you been, Jenny?
No,
No, I haven't spent, she's in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't spent time in Nashville.
Well, next time I go, I'm going to look it up because we have friends in Nashville and I would like to go and see it.
Yeah, because I think just their whole philosophy of life is very interesting, Ann Patchett. That the town needed an independent bookstore. I'm gonna figure this out and get one. And yeah, so I think she was really good about that. Do you remember?
Off on a little just aside, Independent Bookstore Day is Saturday, so go support them.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, we haven't talked about Maeve's diabetes, which is really a real part of her. I mean, she doesn't want it to be part of her, but it makes, she's a strong woman, but her body is weak. And so the body had all sorts of means to deal with what it couldn't understand. What does this mean? So what is the relationship between physical health and emotional stress or trauma? So Danny says the body had all sorts of means to deal with what it couldn't understand. So I think in his medical, he understands Maeve's illness, but also she's bringing on the trauma and making it worse by the way she lives. I don't know. Is that what you got from that, or anything about why Anne would have given her an illness like this to show that, you know, the weakness of your body, the weakness of your mental state? She had both, really. She couldn't get over her anger, and then her body was also fighting this her disease. Anyone have any feelings about that whole part of the story and her weakness? Or she just came across as a strong person, but her body was weak? Is that kind of what you felt about that, or? Okay. All right, that question didn't work.
Well, it seemed to me like it was just one more curveball that she had to face and master in her life.
Yeah.
She took the job. She took a job to be there and, you know, support Danny when he was still young and pay the bills and overcome the loss of their inheritance. I don't know.
You know, I'm sorry, did I interrupt, Sean?
No.
Okay.
No.
I just want to, you know, I think that that idea that the body exhibits feelings that maybe you can't articulate, that reminds me now, there was an article just recently here in Milwaukee, one of the, I guess he's a psychotherapist, he writes columns, and it was specifically about people coming in with physical issues that were related to mental, you know, concerns, that their mental health. So I think that, you know, her diabetes was definitely, thinking about that, it was definitely a reflection of, you know, the loss of her mother and her, maybe her inability to deal with it. She couldn't, you know, get all of her feelings out. So her body was reacting in a really negative way. So, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know anyone with that type of diabetes, and
But was she
how,
type 1? Was it type
Yeah, she
1?
was type
Yeah.
1.
Okay,
yeah, yeah,
just because of her
Just
age.
early onset.
yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
wow.
yeah,
You
Well,
know, the
it's
fact
it's a
that,
psychosocial emotional thing that oftentimes is linked to serious illnesses.
right,
And we've all seen that with people I'm sure that we know. I just felt that Maeve was stuck. You know, she couldn't
Yeah.
move on, and her body kept that in, and that's toxic
yeah.
mm-hmm.
over
And I
time.
think the fact as an adult that she kind of ignored it, refused to acknowledge it, refused to take it seriously. I think that was maybe all part of her, just not being willing to deal with the feelings that she had when her mother left and her father and all of that kind of childhood trauma.
The whole idea of home is in this book. Like, the Dutch house is home, but it's really home is not. And I think Danny even says that. Later in life, sitting outside the Dutch house, Danny realizes that the feeling of home he was experienced was due not to a house, but wholly and gratefully to his sister Maeve. So his whole idea of home was given to him by his sister, and it had nothing to do with the house. It was, just going, and I think it was so funny just thinking that every year they go and sit in front of that house. And
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It has nothing to
And
do
mourn.
with the house. I think it's because of the house. Maeve is traumatized much more so than Danny by losing the house. And Maeve is the one that insists that they go sit in front of it. And Maeve, because they've lost the house and everything they've lost, Maeve is literally forced into becoming the person that takes care of everything in their lives. And all of the rest of these things that happened to her are a result of the tension and the trauma. I think the house is constantly the main character.
and not the idea of home. It's the house.
The house causes everything.
Yeah.
It causes the idea that you need a place for home. And that was their home. Now
Yeah.
they don't have that. They have to recreate it. And Maeve feels responsible and has to recreate everything to make. Maeve feels responsible for everything.
Yeah. She never sought out any kind of romantic relationship. She was just this gal
She
that
never
went.
sought out a career of her choice. It just fell in her lap.
Yeah.
You could do it. And even when the man that, appreciates her and the guy she works for, everything Maeve takes on, she takes on 100%. I have to be responsible. I have to do this. She spends money that way. She forces Danny to go to all these expensive schools so that the money will get spent. And she didn't use any of it on herself.
Yeah.
Well,
I
she
found
could.
a quote. I found the
She
page.
couldn't.
She couldn't.
I didn't remember that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she couldn't. It had to go to college, and for some reason, she couldn't use it, but he could. And so she plotted and planned so he would absorb all the money and her kids wouldn't get it. That was the whole.
Because when the father wrote the trust, she was already graduating from
Oh, that's right.
college, and he
Right.
felt that she didn't need any more education.
Right.
And so and when she found out the two girls were included, she's an incredibly intelligent person. She very quickly came up with a way to give him the most expensive education she could think of.
Yeah. And that mother, Andrea, right? Those girls were nice, and they would have gotten along fine with those girls.
Yeah.
And the whole, even at the end, they still were fine. there was nothing about those two little girls that, yeah,
They were put in a position also because
yeah,
they were put in a position, you will get the best room. Well, that girl didn't particularly want the best room. She
Yeah.
was, she was forced. They were forced, and you could tell by they wanted to move away. They didn't find the house to be that part of their life,
mhm,
like Maeve did.
yeah,
And Maeve actually mothered those two little girls
Ah,
to a certain extent in the beginning when they first moved in. They looked up to her, and how Norma was just beside herself that Maeve got kicked out of their bedroom, and it was given to Norma. But I found the quote. Can I read the page?
Yeah.
sure, yeah,
So I don't know what page it is because I didn't have a page in the photo, but the point I wanted to, this is Danny. The point I wanted to say was that we shouldn't still be driving to the Dutch house. And the more we kept up with our hate, the more we were forever doomed to live out our lives in a parked car on Van Hobeck Street, or Hobeck Street or whatever. So that was what the whole story was, how do you process this resentment, whatever, and come out on the other side some kind of a positive outlook. So that,
yeah.
finally found it.
Yeah, and that quote is in the questions. That's an important, it is an important statement in the book. Yeah, the whole processing of anger. Yeah, and I mean, in life have had anger I can't get rid of. It happens, and it's hard to shake, and you hope one day you wake up and it's gone, but it doesn't happen. I mean, it's so yeah, I'm glad we read it, but it was I don't know, it's a good story. Anyone else have any feelings or want to say anything about our book that we've what about the nanny and the maid?
We're sisters.
Yes, and then how they got fired. I mean, it was the typical evil stepmother. I mean, Fluffy, and I forget what the other one's name was, but and they were such an important part of
Right.
Maeve's life. Maeve,
Right.
yeah, and yeah, and that whole relationship, she kept close with them, and the mother kept close with them. Little did anyone know. So, yeah, those, yeah. So I think that shows, and they were very protective of Maeve too, and even yeah, helping them out. Yeah, I can't imagine, kicking out a high school kid. I think he was a freshman. I don't know how old he was, but yeah.
Well, and I thought it was interesting. At one point, the dad was like, "Well, you'll never know, like how to work hard because you'll never want for anything." I think the dad said that when he and Danny were collecting money one day, and then turns out he did know exactly what it's like not to grow up wealthy. Sorry if you guys mentioned that already.
No. I mean, they earned everything that they had. I mean, both Maeve and Danny, their lives were built from their own know-how. It's too bad that Danny had to go to medical school. I can't imagine going to medical school and how hard that is, and just going, okay, now I'm done with that. I can be a builder, or I can be
I can buy sell houses now.
I can see why his wife didn't agree with him.
Yeah.
You marry a package, and then all of a sudden that package changes.
Well, she thought she knew the package, right?
Yeah.
But look at Danny and Maeve, and then look at Norma and Bright, and those two little girls turn out with a perfect life of never you know, one ended up being a yoga instructor and never wanting to come back, right?
Right.
Norma,
Yeah.
the dutiful daughter, you know, went to medical school, was doing her thing and came back to care for her mother, but felt so much remorse over the dastardly treatment of Maeve and Annie. You know, it's like their life wasn't all just roses either.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't exactly come from a great example.
No, exactly.
I mean, it was almost poetic justice that the woman, didn't she have Alzheimer's at the end? It was
Yes.
almost poetic
Yes.
justice that she had, there she was living in that beautiful house that drove her to everything, and she had knowledge of it. And she
Yeah.
had no knowledge of it. That I don't want to sound cruel, but that didn't bother me at all.
Well, and the scene where I remember they were parked out in front of the house and they were going, uh-oh, she came out.
Yes.
And then she must have had, you know, the Alzheimer's then because she had no like reason. She just kind of walked out and then walked and they're like, what was that all about? So,
Wasn't she in her nightgown and slippers?
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So it was totally, because she always dressed for the occasion. She was one of
Yeah.
those that always was appropriate. So to have something so wrong per se to her persona was a telling tale that she was out of the house and she wasn't dressed appropriately also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just one
okay.
other thing I thought too, if I could add, you know, when Elna came back out of the blue and Maeve just forgave her and embraced her immediately. And Danny was the one who struggled and really wasn't feeling very forgiving and wanted to keep his distance. And it was like, whether Maeve knew her life was short, and she lived a pretty long time for being a type 1 diabetic, right? I mean, but, you know, it's like she was reliving, she was 10, she had a lot of memories of her mother, but she was sort of reliving or getting back some of that lost time of some closeness with her mother at the end there.
Yeah.
And basically told Danny, like, you know, get over it. You know, she's back and she's in my life. And, you know, I didn't know if that was her kind of reaching for something a big chunk that was missing in her life before somehow she had a chance to recover some of that.
Totally.
Yeah.
She's in a fantasy that, like,
Right.
I mean, to accept this woman that walks out on you, clung to the idea of that family all of her life, and she took care of Danny in the spirit of, but Danny didn't know that life, and Danny could see her for what she was, a very unusual, odd woman.
Right.
Well, he didn't even know his mother. He was only 3. I mean, she had
Right.
so many connections, and all Danny saw was the hurt that his sister had and what
Right.
happened. And so he's protecting his sister in a way, and he just did not have any connections with his mother the way she did. And so when she came back, he's kind of like guarding her for fear that her mother will do something else, like leave again or just take
Or
advantage.
take care of Andrea. I mean, another example of this woman has all this compassion in the world for the poor of India and the woman who brutalized her children.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Danny can kind of see her for what she is, which I'm not sure what the words are. She's very odd, and she's not somebody I'd care to be friends with.
No, and didn't she give Maeve some weird birthday gift, like matches? What was that? I was like, what? I don't even remember that scene, but she got what Maeve received a box of matches and instructions for how to light a fire from her mother on her 8th birthday. What was that all about?
So that was so she could light the fire and warm up
Fire.
the house because the house was
Right.
perennially
Cold.
freezing cold. And
Right.
it was like a
Right.
rite of passage. That's the way I read it. Like,
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
I'm glad.
old enough
You-
now
Yeah,
to do
I-
that.
Because she
read
had
it
a
that way, too.
fireplace in her bedroom.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. She wanted to make sure she stayed warm.
yeah.
And
And
that's
it
a
kind-
lovely thought.
She
but
was old
most
enough to light her own
people-
fire.
That's a lovely thought, but most 8-year-olds would love a toy or a,
Right.
or a book. Again, I think the woman was very odd.
Yeah,
But she originally was in the convent to be a nun.
Because he
And
took
then
her
Right.
Cyril went and took her away from what her life
right.
was.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well,
I forgot
Cyril-
about that.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, Cyril was no shining example of how to be a human being either.
Yeah, right.
Okay, well, any final thoughts on the Dutch House? Because we're going to talk future books just for about 10 minutes. Any more thoughts on the Dutch House?
Just,
Glad we read it. Thank you.
yeah, I think, wasn't it the runner-up to the Pulitzer this year? I think so,
Oh, yeah,
for
she gets
fiction.
all kinds of awards and yeah, it was.
Yeah, so, for that.
I really liked it. I really liked it, and I'm going to listen to it because I was
You'll love it.
I
Yeah.
kept thinking Tom Hanks. I could just hear his voice because there was humor. I thought in the reading from Danny from time to time. So looking
Yeah.
for
Yeah, there was humor. And yeah, just even how he would lead into the next chapter. And now we're on chapter 17. I mean, he
Yeah.
kind of did his own thing and she let him. And she didn't tell him how to do it, just do it. And that's also unusual about an audiobook. Usually
Yeah.
it's the publisher who picks the reader, and she has a lot of control that
Yeah.
when she was talking about her cover, not only is the cover, the book that I have, she had Delph inside here on one of the editions, a beautiful book. Like it's, so I mean, even the pages and the font and how the pages look. So it's a big package for her. It's not just the story.
Well,
So-
I'm going to say goodbye because I have to go to
Okay.
work. So you guys
right.
talk about books and whatever you guys decide, I'm sure it'll be great. So
Okay. All
I'm
right.
going to go.
All right. Hey, so I put a list of books out there for you to look at, and I looked at what people are feeling about the different books, and I think I will make sure it's a good balance, that we're not going to have all of one theme. I know there's a lot going on in our country, and there's a lot of Black Lives Matter books out there right now. And I know there was quite a few on our list. We'll probably have one, not four. Just when you saw all of them, it's going to be a good balance. Does anyone have any thoughts about any of the titles that I put out there?
Did people, do you have a count?
Yeah, I have a count. I looked, and like The Vanishing Half is the book that people have a strong feeling for. The Lions, which is about the New York Public Library, people are liking that.
When are you going to decide?
I'm going to look at, I'm going to give it another week out there, and if you have any other feelings about books that, I know American Dirt is on there, but if people are not going towards that book, I thought for sure American Dirt would be like up there, and maybe because people are reading it for other book clubs, I don't know. That seems to
Speaking
be
of
when,
other book clubs, kudos to you for Station 11. We're ahead of the game.
Oh, I know. And I had to then tell them what I want to do. And we will do Glass Hotel.
Good.
And so I had to, that was yesterday, they asked me. Oh, I have to announce something to all of you. I signed my contract. I'm the branch manager, and I turned it in yesterday. So, a new chapter in my life.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
So cool.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
What does that mean, Janine? What, I don't know what that means, branch manager.
I'm the librarian at the Egg Harbor Library. I was
Okay.
interim for a year, and then
Right.
I had to interview for the position.
Okay.
And, go
Got
through
it.
all that again. So
Means she's in charge. Hooray for us.
Yeah, nice.
I
Good
say
for
it's
you.
about time they got up on time and
Yeah.
put you in that
So,
position.
yeah, I handed that in yesterday, and
That's great.
yeah, I feel good about
So you're
it.
enjoying your retirement, right?
Yeah,
Right.
So what does it
This
mean
was-
for you?
well,
You know, what it
it's
would be
just-
different.
nothing's different.
Okay.
Well, you get to pick your hours a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah,
You
and
get to-
there'll be an assistant, so I won't be
Oh.
5 days. I'll be 4 days.
Okay.
So, which will be really nice.
Yeah.
It's official.
Nice.
And it's
official.
official.
And as I remember coming up here in my 20s and 30s and looking at that Sister Bay Library up that was looked out on the water, and I said, someday maybe I can be a librarian in Door County. So to come full circle and actually be able to be a librarian in Door County was kind of what I wanted to be, and it's like, whoa. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm happy. Well,
Good.
I'll take a look at how people are.
Speaking of librarians, I really strongly push for in the category where the Lions are.
Okay.
The Avenue librarians.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one more, you have Know My Name on the list, right?
Yeah.
Is that was one of the
Yeah.
choices? Just FYI, there was an article in last week's Time Magazine, an interview with her, with the author. I can't think of her name, but anyway, just if
Yeah,
you're
I
interested
found-
in that one, got to read the
Yeah.
article.
Okay.
So you'll
What
announce-
category was that? Oh, no, I see it.
That's memoirs, and
That's
Memoirs, yeah.
she was the gal that it was in Stanford, where she
I
was
think- yeah, I think
raped,
so.
Yes.
and
Mhm.
he got kind of a light sentence and so she wrote her memoir about that.
And came out and gave her name, which was kind of a
So
big
what's
decision.
next month's
Mhm.
book? Do we have a
At
book?
the stationery shop,
Oh,
right?
the stationery
Yeah.
shop. Thank
This
you.
is that one. you're
Oh,
talking
Chanel,
about.
that's it.
Yeah,
Right,
And-
Chanel Miller. Mhm.
yeah. And I think this one people are choosing too.
Yeah, she was on 60 Minutes
Mhm.
too, big interview.
Okay.
So, little background.
Yeah, and I like seeing, it's an interesting, I added Good Morning America's book club too. So I use Jenna, which, hers are, I mean, we'll probably pick one of hers, and I've used Reese. Reese is really right on with some books. And then sometimes I'm like, what? Good Morning America, NPR, Goodreads and Oprah. So those are the ones I use for choices. Michelle Obama started a book club, but it doesn't look like she went anywhere with it. So,
Malala has a book club going now too. I don't know if you saw that. But that's a paid,
Really?
like you sign up and you're sent a book monthly. But it's focused on different voices,
Yeah.
underrepresented authors.
okay.
Yeah.
So you'll announce the list next week?
Yeah, I think I'll give it a week and
Okay.
go through, and I'll put together the list, and you'll all get a copy, and then I'll post it. It'll be on the Door County Library's website. So, well, everyone, thanks for joining us. Any last thoughts, anyone?
So we
What's
don't
next?
know, we haven't picked next month's book yet,
Oh,
correct?
yes, it's
Yeah.
Stationery Shop.
Stationery.
Stationery Shop. And I have plenty of books here at the library for you if you need to check one out. Ginny, do you want me to bring you one?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
Sean,
you.
I'll bring you one.
Yep, thanks.
So when I walk my dog, I drop off books just in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm a little too far.
Personalized
Yeah,
service over here. Yeah.
That's nice.
I'm a little too far too.
Yeah.
So we
Thank
have.
you all very much. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thanks,
Trissa.
Janine.
Okay.
Hey, Trissa? Oh,
What?
do you want me to send it to Fish Creek, your book?
No, I already have a copy. Thank you very
Okay,
much. But
okay,
thanks for
all
the-
right.
Thanks for
All
that.
right,
Glenn.
bye, everyone. See you
Bye.
next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.